Let's talk about Tucker Carlson today and his trip in Russia, in Moscow. And judging by a few of the clips that have come out this week, I've noticed a recurring theme throughout these segments that Tucker Carlson has put out from Russia. Let's start with this one, where he talks about the Moscow subway station. And this one got 136,000 likes, 13 million views on Elon Musk's website, formerly known as Twitter. And here's what Tucker Carlson had to say about the subway in Moscow.
One of the ways you understand a society is through its infrastructure, the places where people gather, the places where they go to travel. If you've got a lot of people in one place, it tells you a lot about the people. So with that in mind, we're standing in front of the Kievskaya metro station, and there's a train station next to it. Now, the metro station was built by Joseph Stalin 70 years ago. And the question is, how's it doing now, after 70 years? So we went into it to take a look, and what we found shocked us. Now, that's not an endorsement of Stalin, who was bad, obviously, nor is it an endorsement of the current president, Vladimir Putin. You may not like him either.
Isn't this interesting how Tucker Carlson... You could say maybe, he just got done interviewing Putin and he's still in Russia. Maybe he does not have the balls of steel necessarily to speak badly about him now.
I've got balls of steel.
Because even as Tucker indicated in his interview with Vladimir Putin, he's not a big fan of journalists and people who talk badly about the beloved Putin regime.
Spaghetti-O.
Tucker Carlson, to his credit, in that interview, asked if they could bring Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal journalist, back to America with them, or with his crew, I guess. So maybe that's the reason, but, he doesn't really seem to be interested in condemning Putin. He just says, you might not like Putin. Well, what about you, Tucker? Why don't you have any bad things to say about Vladimir Putin? Especially considering that if any U.S. president did what Vladimir Putin has done ever since invading Ukraine, starting a war that, took a little longer than expected, oops, turned into a quagmire, ended up taking a toll on the Russian economy and tanking the living conditions for everyday Russians. More on that in a second. Not to mention drafting Russians into the war effort, sending average Joe Russians, we're talking about truckers and baristas and other ordinary working Russians, being sent to Ukraine undertrained, under-equipped to their death. I imagine Tucker Carlson would not be at a loss for words. In fact, we have a clip of Tucker Carlson talking about this, where he likes to smear other people for being a little too hawkish, right here.
I've got 4 draft-age children, so if you're playing recklessly, fast and loose with their lives, then I have a right to despise you, and I do. So if you're Nikki Haley, who's running for president, or Ben Shapiro, or half the people I see on television.
Yeah, Nikki Haley. She's just a little too hawkish on countries like Iran. From what I've seen, she's never said that she's going to go to war if she's elected president, but just for being a little too hawkish for his taste. I recall him calling her bloodthirsty. And then, of course, in this clip, he's going to end up acting like he's taking the high road by abstaining from smears. But he even talks about Ben Shapiro a lot in this light.
And casually mentioning the possibility of nuclear war or sending Americans to fight in the Middle East, or in any way involving us in a war that has nothing to do with prosperity and peace at home, nothing, in other words, to do with us, Americans, then I have a right to call you out and be really offended because it's my family. They live here.
Yeah.
It's not a joke to me. There's nothing abstract about it. I've got 4 draft-age children.
Yeah, 4 draft-age children.
If you're playing recklessly, fast and loose with their lives, then I have a right to despise you.
Yeah, he has a right to despise you, but he can't really bring himself to call Putin despicable. I wonder why that is.
But it doesn't change the reality of what we saw, or more precisely, didn't see. There's no graffiti, there's no filth, there are no foul smells. There are no bums or drug addicts or rapists or people waiting to push you onto the train tracks and kill you.
Well, in Russia, if you speak too badly about Putin, someone might do that. But also, isn't this telling? I went to London back in October, and one of the takeaways from London in general was that for a big city, There wasn't a lot of trash. There wasn't a lot of litter. It was a rather clean city for a big city. Why not go to a city like London, where in a country where where there's still a huge respect for the consent of the governed, in a place like the United Kingdom? Why not go there to make a point like this? If we're going to contrast with horrible American cities. Not to mention, I mean, anyone can easily do this. I could easily go around New York City or Los Angeles or San Francisco, and if I wanted to make it look like a dystopian, nightmarish hellhole, I could just emphasize all of the horrible things. I could go to the worst areas where it's dirtier and poorer and less desirable and just emphasize that. I could also make a place like Los Angeles. I can go to the richer, cleaner areas, and yes, they do exist. I can go to one of the nicer shopping malls where everything looks nice and prosperous and clean. And I can act like nothing's wrong and everything in Los Angeles is totally fine. I think there's a lot of that going on here in these clips that Tucker is presenting. He is being very selective with which aspects of Moscow he wants to present. And he's being very selective with which aspects of American life he wants to present.
No. It's perfectly clean and orderly.
Yeah, perfectly clean and orderly.
And how do you explain that? We're not even going to guess.
Yeah, we're not going to guess.
That's not our job.
Yeah, it's not his job. Not his job as a media person, a journalist, to explain why things are the way they are. He's just asking questions, you guys.
Well, excuse me, princess.
We're only going to ask the question.
Yeah.
And if your response is to shout at us slogans dumber than the slogans we used to call Soviet and mock, that's not really an answer. How does Russia, a country we're told is a gas station with nuclear weapons...
By the way, who said that, by the way? Who is famous for making that claim about Russia and Vladimir Putin? It was actually Ron DeSantis while he was running for president.
Have a subway station that normal people...
Just in case anyone's about to come at me all like...
What are you, on the left?
That's not really an answer. How does Russia, a country we're told is a gas station with nuclear weapons, have a subway station that normal people use to get to work and home every single day that's nicer than anything in our country? We're not going to speculate.
Yeah, we're not going to speculate.
We're just going to raise the question and wait for someone in charge to give us an answer. What is the answer?
Yeah.
So we'll stop the lecture and let you take a look for yourself at what the Kievskaya metro station in Moscow, Russia looks like today, February 2024, in the middle of a war. Here it is.
All right, let's mute that really quick. Yeah, look at this train station. My goodness, got a lot of art and memorials to communism, as we're going to see. Yeah, look at that. Wow, you don't see this in America. You don't see monuments and art to communism in America. Wow, look at that, you guys. Look at that train. Look at the chandeliers. Got nice chandeliers. Oh my God, an escalator. I mean, I see escalators at the North Hollywood station, the Hollywood and Highlands station, the Universal station, tunneled escalators like this. Oh yeah, nice guardrails, I guess. And yeah, we're about to get to it. Where is it? The Vladimir Lenin monument. Where is it? It's coming up. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. Yeah, Vladimir Lenin. Wouldn't you like to walk by this on your commute to work every day? One of the biggest monsters of the 20th century. Responsible for bringing this horrific ideology to Russia. Responsible for the Soviet Union. And probably also responsible for the popularity of communism in the 20th century and the spread of communism in the 20th century. And look, I'm not here to make it sound like America is all great and perfect. No, that is a big problem, especially with American subways. You see litter from time to time. You see overflowing trash cans and litter in the subways, but I don't know. I'm starting to wonder. I don't know. This is a false dichotomy. There's definitely a discussion to be had about how why subways are dirtier in America and what can be done about them. There's definitely a discussion to be had there. But if we're going to have this false dichotomy between maybe having an overflowing trash can and a few empty soda bottles and Taco Bell wrappers near the train tracks in the subway station, and the alternative to that is monuments to communism and brutal dictators, I don't know. I might settle for the trash. At least then I know most people are unhappy with the trash and want something to be done about it. But monuments to communism, I'm definitely not okay with. But apparently Tucker Carlson is. Who knows? Maybe I was not exaggerating when I was calling this goof Tucker Karl Marxon, because he likes to analyze politics in the aspect of class warfare.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
And now here he is glorifying the subway station in Moscow because it has monuments to communism. Apparently Tucker is really big on that. Here's another video that came out earlier this week of Tucker Carlson speaking at some World Government Summit. World Government Summit. Doesn't that sound a little bit like globalism?
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs!
Either way, here's what he had to say here.
Simply the leader of the country, who of course is impressive. It's the largest landmass in the world. And it's wildly diverse, linguistically, culturally, religiously. It's hard to run a country like that for 24 years, whether you like it or not. So an incapable person couldn't do that. He is very capable, and many of you know him, and you know that. What was radicalizing, very shocking, and very disturbing for me was the city of Moscow, where I'd never been, the biggest city in Europe, 13 million people. And it is so much nicer than any city in my country. I had no idea. My father spent a lot of time there in the 80s when he worked for the U.S. government and barely had electricity. And now it is so much cleaner and safer and prettier aesthetically. Its architecture, its food, its service, than any country, city in the United States that you have to, and this is non-ideological.
Not ideological, guys. Yeah, stop thinking about ideology and ideas.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
How did that happen? And at a certain point, I don't think the average person cares as much about abstractions as
who cares about abstractions? Don't try to connect any dots, you guys.
about the concrete reality of his life.
Yeah, it's all about the concrete reality and living conditions right around you.
And if you can't use your subway, for example, as many people are afraid to in New York City because it's too dangerous.
It's not what I got when I was in New York back in December, but whatever.
You have to sort of wonder, like, isn't that the ultimate measure of...
Maybe that was just me. Then there was his trip to the grocery store, which I'll start out with this clip. This clip right here.
All right. Here we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart back.
Ooh.
So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it.
Yeah.
And not just bring it to your homeless encampment.
Yeah, it's an anti-theft measure. Now, as many have pointed out, and as I pointed out right here, this technology already exists. I've seen this at Aldi grocery stores in Los Angeles. Others in my replies pointed out how I guess this is also a thing at Fred Meyer in Seattle. Someone else mentioned that a grocery store chain in Canada has used these since the 1980s. There's also a new anti-theft technology that I've noticed where the cart wheels will lock if you try to take the cart too far away from the store. In other words, this stuff already exists in America. There was another clip where Tucker Carlson, he was on an escalator where his cart was not moving or rolling back because the wheels of the cart were gripping to the escalator floor, and he seemed rather impressed by that. Meanwhile, here in Los Angeles, there are multiple Ralphs and Target, and I'm sure other locations, other department stores and grocery stores where they have escalators, multiple floors, escalators, and then they have escalators specifically designed to carry your cart up for you so that you can shop between the floors. And then as we're going to see when we get to the checkout, I think he grossly overestimates how much his groceries would have cost in America. The impression I got from this, one of the impressions, the immediate impressions I got from this was that Tucker Carlson does not do his own grocery shopping. My guess, and I'm just asking questions because this is what Tucker likes to do. We're just going to ask questions and let you guys figure out. I don't know. I just got that impression. I don't know if he has a relative do his grocery shopping for him. I don't know if he outsources it to a personal assistant or to the gig economy, one of the delivery apps, which is totally fine, by the way. I'm not hating on that. If you get to a point like Tucker Carlson is, where you've made millions of dollars over your career and you can afford to outsource your errands and other tasks that you don't want to do so that you can spend more of your life, more of your time with your family or being productive or doing things that you enjoy more than grocery shopping, that's totally fine. The point I'm making here is that Tucker kind of looks like an asshat when he goes to Russia and he's seemingly impressed by aspects of the Moscow shopping experience that already exist in America. And here's the where he's checking out at the grocery store.
I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about
$400 for all of these groceries. Now, I'm not going to do what I've done before. I'm not going to, if you guys want me to, maybe I could do this, but I don't feel like it's necessary for the point I'm making. But just looking at these groceries, I would not come anywhere near $400, which again leads me to believe that this guy does not do his own grocery shopping. And a lot of people have already made corrections. The community notes have been lighting Tucker up over this. Russians spend on average 30% of their income on food, which is 5 times more in the US. It's 6%. According to this community note on Elon Musk's website, over 60% of Russians spend half of their salary on food, according to Russia's state-owned news agency, TASS. Also, the average wage in Russia is roughly equivalent to $791 a month with today's exchange rates. And then you have economists like Jeremy Horpdahl pointing out that inflation is at an all-time high in Russia. Scott Lincecum was sharing some charts comparing Russia and the United States, showing that poverty is a much bigger problem in Russia than it is in the United States. But let's let Tucker finish his point.
legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400.
$400 for all those groceries.
It was $104 US.
$104 for all those groceries in Russia.
Here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe
Listen to that spooky music. Ooh, oh no.
matter as much as you thought.
Also, listen to that part.
And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought.
Ideology doesn't matter, according to Tucker. This is the recurring theme I'm noticing throughout all of these segments, is that ideology doesn't matter. Don't worry about abstractions. Don't connect any dots. It's all about the immediate concrete conditions and reality right in front of your face. And you should be mad about it.
And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought. Corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation.
Which is what Putin has done through starting a war with Ukraine. But especially the inflation part and this implication that grocery shopping is cheaper in Russia.
Corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation.
And inflation.
And they literally can't buy the groceries they want.
And they literally can't buy the groceries they want.
At that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country.
Yeah, you're wrecking their lives. And then there's the double standard of this, because a few months ago, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tucker Carlson was all bent out of shape over the existence of dollar stores in America, saying that they're a sign of failure.
So I think it's a fair assessment.
Again, this from December, 1.2 million views, few thousand likes on this particular post. This is him talking with Glenn Greenwald.
I think a smarter way to assess an economic system is by its results. So you can assign whatever name you want to the economic system of the United States. You could call it market capitalism. You could call it, you could call it a whole host of different things. But I don't think any of that's useful. Those are boring conversations. I think you need to ask...
Yeah, identifying what exactly an economic system is, I guess, is useless, and its consequences.
Does this economic system produce a lot of dollar stores? And if it does, it's not a system that you want.
And for those who don't know, dollar stores, they're these specialized stores that happen to specialize in trying to keep prices low for consumers. Ideally around $1. There are also 99-cent stores, especially here in Los Angeles, and Tucker's not a big fan of them.
Because it degrades people.
Yeah, it degrades people.
And it makes their lives worse. And it
makes their lives worse.
Increases exponentially the amount of ugliness in your society. And anything that increases ugliness...
I guess the opposite of ugliness is monuments to communism and brutal dictators.
Evil. And it's just let's just start there. So if it's such a good system, why do we have all these dollar stores? Dollar store is the clear, it's not the only ugly thing being created in the United States, but it's one of the most common, and it's certainly the most obvious. So if you have a dollar store, you're degraded. And any
if you have a dollar store, you're degraded.
Town that has a dollar store does not get better, it gets worse, and the people who live there lead lives that are worse. So, and the counter argument, to the extent there is one, they buy cheaper stuff. Great.
Oh, they buy cheaper stuff. Great. He's saying that very dismissively.
But they become more unhappy.
Oh, they become more unhappy if they have a store with cheaper groceries.
And the dollar store itself is a sort of...
Isn't that a bit of a double standard? If we have dollar stores here in America, these stores that specialize in keeping groceries cheap, products cheap, where people can go and buy cheaper priced goods, lower priced goods, I guess that makes them unhappy. But if he goes to a store in Russia and the groceries there are cheaper, I guess that's not going to result in Russians being unhappier. That's not degrading or whatever. Isn't that a bit of a double standard? Now ask yourself, again, we're just going to ask questions here. Ask yourself why Tucker is going out of his way to make the case that ideology does not matter, especially in a country like Russia. And remember, we're just asking questions here, you guys.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Could it be the case that Tucker Carlson... Could it be the case that he might be going full Walter Duranty? Could it be the case that Tucker Carlson is trying to warm Americans up to authoritarianism? Could it be the case that Tucker is trying to blur the distinction between the American system of government and the Russian system of government, talking about them as if any differences and distinctions do not matter? I don't know. Just asking questions, you guys. I'll let you guys figure that out. The recurring theme from these Tucker Carlson segments from Russia is to stop making abstractions. Ideology does not matter. The thing that matters most is the concrete conditions around you, and they're not as good as you think, and you should be upset with your current political leaders and the current political class about it. All right, let's run with this. Well, wouldn't this entail having some sort of alternative, like an alternative vision or an alternative set of principles and ideas that's different from what the current political leaders are doing to make things worse? In other words, wouldn't this entail making abstractions, noticing a cause and effect between ideas and their consequences, making connections between ideas and consequences, and demanding that different ideas perhaps even a different ideology be tried and given a chance? Because if that's the case, then I doubt that Tucker Carlson would be completely disregarding ideology and principles.